I'm gonna undo that. Yeah.
I like, I decided that first of all,
Yeah.
taking care of my family was something that I think it was important. So I'm not sure if it has anything to do with
Okay.
raising kids. But another thing is, and it's something that I have to work on it. It doesn't. I like to be able to be positive, and even like walking and saying hi to somebody that just walks on the street and just smile. And also sometimes people approach you. It can be business. It can be, I don't know, and they're like not in a good mood. They can use certain kind of language that, and going to a restaurant, you want the best service, and somebody's not giving you the one you're expecting. So in the beginning, I would get upset. Like, I'm not going to tip her or whatever. Now I learned God knows what's going on in her life. So I'm going to try to be a little bit more lenient, take it easy, and give them the,
benefit of the doubt, give a positive. So basically, like, take like a positive, try to be, my brother has this, like a line that he always says, be the reason someone smiles.
That's a good one.
So maybe something like that. Okay, what's your line? Oh, great. Oh, I like that one. Okay. So anyone else have any kind of purpose, mission? They feel like they know why they're here.
To be kind and
To be right. Okay.
Was your purposeful life or purpose in your life?
Okay, good question. Yeah, so that's what we're going to get into. So why are we talking about this? Because today we're going to discuss the life cycle of a person, but specifically what the connection is with the spiritual side, with the Jewish side, with the soul. Okay, so you're like the life cycle of a person's life, and what the soul has to do with that, how the soul is integrated into the life cycle of the life. And through that, we'll also discuss the purpose, the purpose of your life, or the mission in your life, or your mission, or your life's calling, or whatever it is. Okay, so obviously people are born, there's different things that happen throughout life. It's not just a biological occurrence, but there's also milestones for the soul. Okay, and today we're going to touch upon the Jewish side of birth, of naming of a child, maturity, marriage, and death. So last week in the Parsha, we discussed that, actually Rabbi Isaac, I think he wrote it up in the email, was that it says to be holy because God is holy, because I am holy. So what does that mean? So it means not just being holy when you're in the synagogue, when you're doing a ritual, but to be holy even when you're at work, even when you're just having fun, even when you're spending time with your family or with your friends. Being a Jew is you act differently, or something else comes out than just, what you're just, it's not just the mundane, it's not just what you're doing, but there's something always deep. There's something always that you could bring out that's Jewish within what you're doing, no matter what it is. And as we notice that not notice, but it's a very big concept in Judaism, that Judaism is a religion that really isn't at home. It's not the synagogue. You don't have to have a synagogue to be religious. You don't have to have it's the main thing is that your home is Jewish. So you keep Shabbat in the home, that you have a kosher home, that you bring, Judaism, and that's the life at home. That's why, just a side point, why women are so important in Judaism. It's not like, some people say, they're just at the home and relegated to take care of the family or something like that. That's exactly the opposite. The home is where the heart is. The home is where the heart of Judaism is. And if the person who's taking care of the home is not in tune, then that won't be a Jewish home, or Jewish, they won't get the Jewish feeling in that home. So why is it so important to infuse everything we do with Judaism? Why does, everything that, the birth, the, naming of a child, everything has to do with Judaism? So we're going to begin. Okay. So let's see if our thing works over here. Yes. Okay. Finally got it the right way. Okay. So let's start with birth. Who doesn't love the feeling and the sight of a newborn? It's like something really, you know, it's just like you hold a newborn baby and just kind of like you melt, right? It's like yum. And the smell of a baby, right? Just delicious. It's so, you know, besides for just being all nice and cute, it's miraculous. You look at this, oh my God, look at the tiny fingers, look at the tiny toes. It's so beautiful and it's so miraculous. Look how there's a little miniature human being that, you know, became its own being. You know, it was in the mother's, you know, inside the mother's body. And now it's all, I mean, it's not totally independent, but it's its own kicking, living creature. Its own, and it's just a miraculous thing. So spiritually, what is the birth? The birth is a time when the soul starts to become part of the body, starts to integrate with the body. So God made a body, which is a very physical thing, and the soul is a very spiritual thing. And when the baby is born, the soul and the body start to fuse, but it's not complete. Okay. So the soul at this, it's kind of like a paradox for the soul. The soul at this time is, you know, up in heaven. It has a really nice, cushy life with God. You know, everything's good. There's no suffering. There's no problems. And it's like, on one hand, it's like, why should the soul come down and be in the body? The life is a hard, you know, earth is a hard place to live. It's not easy and, you know, and cushy. It's like difficult. We go through problems. We have to, you know, from when you're a child, you have, you know, issues in school or issues with siblings or issues with your parents, whatever it is. And as you grow older, things don't always get easier. Sometimes things get more difficult. Sometimes you have more, you know, it's not an easy road. On the other hand, in heaven, the soul can't really grow or accomplish. It could be, okay, and it can enjoy itself, but it can't gain anything. It doesn't gain, it doesn't move forward. So on one hand, the soul is very eager to come down on one hand, the soul is very eager to come down on earth and to like have a mission in life. So actually it was many years ago, my son used to play this game online called Club Penguin. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. I'm sure there's a lot of things like this, I have no clue, but it was like a kid's thing where you have like a persona in a game, and if there's other people who are online at the same time and they're also have like a person, what they're called. Yeah, avatar, like kind of like an avatar. Yeah. So you play the game and you can like go and visit different things and buy things and do all kind of stuff, right? And other people also, and they're really real people who are actually doing it, but they just have their little avatar. Anyway, so one of the things they had there was you could go on this like secret mission for, you know, and find, you know, the missing, whatever, they have these little pets, I forgot the pets' names were. You find the missing pet and you had to go and find the tools and find this, and you just like were like throw, you know, you said, here's your mission, go. And then you like end up, you take a little space shuttle or whatever it was, you end up in this place and you had to like, you know, jumped on things, touched things until you found a tool, until you found a clue, until you like got your mission. So this is like the same thing with the soul. So on one hand, the soul, we don't know our mission. We don't know where to find the tools and where to find the clues and where to find everything we need to find. But we are put down here, the soul's put down here to do something, to gain and to grow and to, you know, bottom line is to reveal godliness to the world, to bring more light into the world. We don't know exactly what our path is to get there. Okay, so that's what the soul is coming down. So on one hand, it's excited to come down. It wants to go on a secret mission. It doesn't know what it's, you know, but doesn't really know what it is. Yes. So it starts to come. So good question. So it's already connected to the baby, but it's not quite in there yet. So right, so it has that connection, but it has not yet like it's right realized. Yes.
You mentioned the 30 days. Was it a 30 days?
30 days or 40 days before a child is born.
After the child is born.
That what?
Before the child is born.
That they call out this child to be married with this person. Yeah. So they're saying so that soul is already connected to that baby. Oh, that's a whole nother story. Well, we'll get a little bit to that today, but that could be like a whole, that could be a whole class in itself. Okay, yeah. So anyway, yes, but good, yes, very good question. We'll discuss it a little bit.
I thought you said that the baby soul, not our soul. The baby soul.
The baby soul.
Is,
30 days, 40.
I think it's 40 days. Yeah.
40 days
Yeah.
after it's.
No,
born?
before it's born.
Before it's born.
So
Okay.
before it
Okay.
actually
40
give,
days
before
the
it's
baby
it's
is
conceived. Yes, you're right.
Wow.
It's conceived.
They said, I don't know. You said.
Can you say from the beginning? I'm getting
Okay,
confused.
she's asking me a question. That doesn't really have to do with this, but so basically there is a concept that I think it's 40 days, but 30 days, 40 days before a child is, no, conceived or born? Born. It says this child's going to marry so-and-so.
Oh, well, not.
That's what she's talking about. So that's what she's talking about. So yes, the soul is connected to that baby. So God chose that baby and that soul to go together, but they do not actually like attach yet until it's out of the, and even once it's born, it's not fully integrated, it's attached. But that's, so when the baby's conceived, there is a connection. We know that this soul is going to go to this baby. Then when the baby is born, it starts to like integrate. So basically you have two, you have two opposites. You have a body, which is super physical, and it has just animalistic tendencies. They're just natural tendencies. It wants to eat, right? The baby just crying, wants to eat. It wants to feel clean. It wants to sleep. You know, it doesn't understand anything else. Like, I don't care, mom says to stay up all night for me, or I don't care what anyone else says. I want this right now. And then there's the soul who wants to do God's mission. But the soul cannot do God's mission, has no conduit for what it wants to do without the body. And the body is not going to be animated, it's not going to be alive without the soul. So they need each other, but it's like they have to get used to each other. So once the baby's actually born, once the birth takes place, there is a little bit of a connection. It starts to connect, but it's not fully connected. It's like still, it takes time. It's a process. Exactly. Yes, a process. Yes. Yes. Oh, so that's what we're gonna discuss. We're gonna discuss it right now. Yes. Okay. So the soul wants to come down. It doesn't want to come down. It's not sure what it wants to do. God kind of convinces it, time to come down to the world. I got a mission for you. And so the birth is the day that Hashem decided that the world is not complete without you. So anytime you're feeling low or feeling down, say, God wanted me here, and there was a special purpose that he wanted me here. There's some mission I have to complete. There is something I need to do. Exactly. Yes. But you look at yourself and say, hey, what is my talent? What do I bring to the table that maybe someone else doesn't bring to the table? And through that, you could start, working on it and saying, what talent or what thing do I have that can help other people, that can help the world, that could, give more to the world or to make God more present in the world. And then that's how you slowly, because I'm sure everyone here has something that they are into or something that they care very much about or something that they're very good at. That so I actually just heard a whole podcast with Tamir Goodman. I'm not sure if you know who he is. Tamir Goodman. He was NBA basketball player. He was totally religious Jew. Okay, now he lives in Israel. I think maybe he had some injuries. He's retired from the NBA, but he lives in Israel and he does a lot of good work. He said from when he was a very, very small child, he knew his life was basketball. Okay, and you might think, what's that? That's not religious. What's spiritual about basketball? But he ended up taking basketball to a whole new level in the religious way. So number one is that he was insistent all through his basketball career, like leading up to getting into the NBA and everything, in keeping Shabbos. So he wouldn't go to any, or he wouldn't do anything that's going to. Sorry, are you okay, Seema?
Yes, more or less.
He's going to. So he wasn't going to do anything that's against Shabbos or against any Jewish, and he was saying stories like how difficult it was for him and how difficult the coaches made it for him, and then how he ended up. He's in Israel now, and he has like I don't remember exactly what he has, but he has a like organization that through basketball helps people, helps children and stuff like that. Yeah, children in Israel, maybe either children maybe who've been through like trauma or something. I don't remember exactly. Okay, no, but what I would think, he could have gone the other way. He could have said, oh gosh, I love basketball. I'm not gonna live without basketball. I don't care if I don't have to if I don't keep Shabbos, God will understand me. He could have done it that way too. So yes, he was put on a pedestal. Everyone knows him. So he's he's in the, he's in the media's eye, he's in everybody's eye. But even you and me, who aren't that famous, sorry, you do have something that you could do to help other people or to just make more godliness in the world in some way or another. And it says, there's actually a Hasidic saying that says, a soul may live in the world 70, 80 years, just do one favor for another person. So that's why we try to be the best of we that we can be, and whatever comes out, comes out. Okay, so the birthday then is a very big time to celebrate our potential. It's a time to celebrate what we've accomplished in the past year in our life until now. And it's a time to see, hey, what can I do this coming year? What have I done? Have I fulfilled my mission? Do I know what my mission is? And see what have I done to make the world a better place? What have I done to bring godliness into the world? And can I do something more? It's interesting to note, I've heard this from a few sources, that convert, maybe they might not be born with a Jewish soul, but some people say this Jewish soul is like kind of hovering them or following them around until it's time for them to convert. So that's like they were destined to be a Jew, they just weren't ready, at that point yet, whatever,
Yes.
Yes, yeah.
Do you know him?
Nissim Black. And
And one of the things that really hurt about it, it hurt me, is when he decides to go to Israel and they were making fun of his kids.
Well, yeah.
They were making fun of his black kids. They were making, he was in Israel, he came to, he was studying, but they couldn't accept him.
Some kids had a hard time accepting like a black Jewish kid. Yeah, but he wasn't a very Haredi. I'm saying he wasn't just religious, he was like very Haredi. A lot of Ethiopians are more like like national religious or whatever.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
My brother went to Israel, he made friends, and Keely is a very dark Jew from Morocco, and he too, they are prejudiced against. Yeah, and so he felt it, but he's a Jew.
But I think they found a balance. They found the right place for their kids now. Yeah. Okay.
Well, I have to say something.
Mhm.
Sorry.
Okay.
Nissim Black, he was a rapper, he was Christian and Muslim Christian, whatever it was. But it goes to your point, is that he is still a rapper, but sings and has this gigantic following about Hashem and Shabbat, and just beautiful Jewish, everything Jewish rapping, and it's like really like the rap kind of
No,
thing.
he is.
100%. But he's right. He's found his mission. He
So
also
that was-
he's searching. He wanted to find the truth, and he kind of merged it all into one. 100%.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So let's talk about birthdays for a minute. So it's a time. So a Jewish birthday, which everyone here has a Jewish birthday. We can look it up at the end of the class in the Jewish calendar if you'd like. It's a time so we celebrate. So we say we have another year. We have a year to do more good. What are we going to try to accomplish this year? And it's a time to look back and say, hey, what have I, where am I? What have I done so far? What have I done this past year? How have I grown? If we look back in the Torah, there are people who celebrate. We see some birthdays in the Torah. I don't know if anyone knows of any that you want to share. Does it say about his birthday in the Torah? Adar. The birthday of the world, good. Moshe, it doesn't say, that's the thing, that's what's interesting. It doesn't say his birthday straight out of the Torah, huh? Aaron Cohen? I'm not sure. So first of all, the famous one is Paro, King Pharaoh, because he has a big birthday party and he judges the butler and the baker, and that's how he finds Yosef and how Yosef becomes second to king. But there's also earlier, it talks about Yitzchak, about Isaac. So he's born, it's like a big miracle that he's born. And then it says when he grew up, they made a party. When he grew up, so there's questions exactly when it was, but it was like his birth, it was a birthday, and they, wow. he's really, you know, some people say it was 3, some people say it was 13, but there was actually like a party for him on one of his birthdays because he grew up to a certain age. So text number 1, it's a rabbi, it's a chacham, or halachas and kabbalist, Rabbi Yosef Chaim of Baghdad. He lived in, I guess, in the mid 1800s. And he says some have a custom to festively celebrate their birthdays. This is an auspicious custom. In fact, is a custom in my household. So it's a special time to celebrate a Jewish birthday. So I know that some people say, oh, I never celebrate, my mother always says, I never celebrate my birthday until the Rebbe said about celebrating birthdays. But there are many Jewish people who celebrated birthdays, you know, and as a good thing, not just, you know, drink and get drunk, but like to celebrate it as a special time and something, and as a spiritual time. And exactly. Yes. And we'll talk about that more. Yes. So it's a time to reflect, to thank Hashem, to, like I said before, to have like an accounting. Where am I in my life? What could I do? What have I done? I'm a year older. I'm a year better. I'm a year more experienced, I hope, in a good way. A time to reflect, exactly. And how can I benefit the world in a better way? And as we said, you can give, on your birthday, your mazel, your energy, your soul has special energy, much stronger than on any other day. So you have that power to bless. And yes, and Rosh Hashanah is the birthday of the world. Passover is the birth of the Jewish nation. So it's a lot about birth and birthdays, and it is a very special time. You know, for me personally, I'll say when I was younger, obviously it was all about the gifts and the parties. And this is embarrassing. When I was little, I said, maybe my birthday is not really the birthday that everyone tells me, because they wanted to surprise me when I'm now, whatever, 8 years old, 9 years old. And now they're going to tell me my real birthday because I wanted to have a surprise party. Obviously, I'm not about that. But today, it's more, I think of more of a serious time, not like, oh, I just want to have a good time today, it's my birthday. It's more, I do think, oh my goodness, I'm a year older, help, you know, I'm not getting any younger. What have I done? What am I supposed to be doing? Did I do enough so far? You know, and I really take, you know, it's more of a serious time, and I think it was more serious, much more seriously than I did when I was younger, early on, you know. So everyone has their birthday celebrations, birthday reflections, and everything like that. So I just want to tell you a little story about this emperor, and he was looking for a new samurai, and he called in a Chinese man, a Japanese man, and a Jewish man. And he said, okay, show me your expertise. The Chinese man comes out and he takes a little box, he opens up a fly flies out of the little box, he takes a sword and goes, chop, and fly splits in two and falls down on the floor, and everyone's like, wow. And then the Japanese man comes out and he takes a box, he opens it up, a little fly flies out, he goes chop chop, and the fly splits in 4 and falls dead to the ground. And he's like, wow. The Jewish guy comes up and he opens a box and a little fly comes out and he goes chop, and the fly's still flying around. And the emperor says, so? He says, I'm a Mahal, I just circumcised the fly. So the next process of the soul fusing with the body is the circumcision. Now, the first thing everyone's going to ask is, what about women? Right? Women don't have a circumcision, do we? Right. Or maybe we do.
No, some cultures do.
Huh? No, yeah, I don't. So yeah, so text number 2 says, some culture, a woman is considered naturally circumcised. So circumcision is not just about the physical chop that the mohel does, that represents the spiritual, which is in you. So somebody who's not circumcised is called an arel, which means like impediment or a blockage, like something's in the way. And we have to, for the man, we have to remove that to like make the flow of spirituality flow through them, you know, more like, you know, to have them better connected. Just another time that this word is used is for Moshe. Remember, Moshe had a speech defect. In Hebrew, it's called arel sifatayan. Arel sifatayan. However you want to say that in the right Hebrew accent, Elisa. Okay. Arel sifatayan. Okay. Okay. I'm saying with the English accent. Okay. So the woman naturally is born with that already circumcised, meaning that she has no impediment that blocks any spiritual path between her and God. She's already automatically connected with God, and she doesn't need that outer physical sign to remind her of it all the time. The male needs that sign to remind them of that all the time. Not just that. So also, if we look at it from creation, right? It's like Adam was created, and then the last thing that was created after Adam was a woman, was Eve. Okay, Eve. What's the last thing that's always created? The last thing that's a finishing touch is like the crown. The woman is the crown of creation. So think of it that we were like the perfect thing that came out at the end. Yes. So the woman is the crown of creation. We're perfect. We don't need anything to be removed from us. We have that direct connection with Hashem. So the soul and the body of a female, the baby girl, can fuse easier than that of a baby boy, that of a male. The male needs the bris, needs the 8 days, and then for it to fuse.
So for the male, then that's when the soul actually fuses, but what,
Yeah,
okay, completely.
not completely yet,
Oh,
but
not
more. Yeah,
Okay.
yes.
What happens
And the
to-
woman, the
what-
female, the girl, when she has her baby naming at the Torah.
Oh, that-
Okay, and that's why it's always good to do it like the earlier the better. So if it's possible, at the first time the Torah is read, some people say, oh, I want to wait till I can make a big celebration.
Sunday and you go on
You could do it on Monday.
Monday, and that's so it's that quick.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But the boy has to wait 8
Yeah.
days, but it's not completed.
Right, right,
After the 8 days.
right.
Still waiting.
So the 8th day, then the boy has the bris, and he also has the naming. And so then it's definitely much more fused, but not the godly soul is not completely in the body yet. Okay, so it's still there, it's still connected, it's not 100%, and we'll learn soon at the Bar Bat Mitzvah is when it completely fuses.
Oh, wow. It must be 13 years for it to completely-
Yeah, and we'll discuss it, we'll explain it. You did get a baby
What-
name.
and what happens to Janet?
So even if the parents name the child, even that alone helps fuse it.
I mean, I don't have any-
Yeah,
I don't
okay.
know.
Say the Torah, it's already, yeah. So even if, but okay, even if your parents just name you, there is a certain, and we'll discuss that in a minute. Well, yeah. That's what I'm just saying. What? We'll discuss that. We'll discuss that. We'll discuss all of that today. So that soul is still with that person, but their godly soul, the soul that like tells them all, like that tries to convince them, like the God side, like, do a mitzvah, do some, it's okay if you, don't have that instant gratification right now. You don't have this desire that you want this moment. That comes in. That won't come in till the 13th. They have their soul. Yes, yes. Yeah. Okay, what do you want, Alicia, had something?
We have, I guess everybody's like, you mentioned going to name, girl naming. We also have every Shabbat, if it's before Brit even, the father comes and say blessings, so girl or boy.
Yeah.
So is
Is that by the Torah you're talking about?
Yeah.
So that's a special blessing that the baby and the mother should be healthy, because any baby within 30 days of birth is considered like in a precarious state. Yeah.
That's what I was
And
thinking.
and the mother, any person who just gave birth is in a kind of like a, I'm not say dangerous, but in a, in a
Yeah.
place. So that's a special blessing that they should be healthy. Yeah, okay. So let's read text number 3. Before a soul enters a body, it is not referred to with any name whatsoever. The soul itself has no need for a name, nor does a lifeless body have any use for a name. The name's function is to join the soul with the body. The vitalizing energy that emanates from the soul to provide the body with life is rooted in the name. So the naming, the baby naming for the girl at the Torah, which just by the way, the baby doesn't have to be there, the mother doesn't have to be there, even the father doesn't have to be there technically. But the baby, as long as the baby is named, with the special prayer at the Torah, that's considered good. The boy, when he has his bris, and when he has his bris, he gets named. That's when the second part of the soul and the body connect. And you want to have this connection as quick as possible, and that's why we want to try to do the naming as quick as possible. Now, I just want to see if there's any footnote about what we were talking about. So Okay, so yeah, so now another, if we look at page 177, there's just a few interesting anecdotes about different Jewish names or different specific people who were named. We can go through some of them or all of them. Someone want to read it? Do you have that? Page 177, what's in the name? Do you guys have that in your book? Yeah, okay. So here's the name Aaron. Aaron, who was the brother of Moshe, the high priest, the Kohen Gadol. He was named Aaron from the word, I don't know how to pronounce it, harayon or harayon, which harayon means pregnancy, and means, I guess, like stop or no more, because that's when Paro made the decree that all the baby boys should be thrown into the river. And his mother said, oh my goodness, we shouldn't get pregnant if our babies are going to be killed anyway. And so she named him, and like a remembrance of this, harayon, like stop the pregnancies, like no more pregnancies. I'm not talking about today's what's going on there, but just like let's try not to have children. Another one, Alexander. Alexander, it's a Jewish name, and it really comes from Alexander the Great. What happened was that he took over, he conquered Jerusalem, and he was nice to the Jews, and he wanted that like his statue should be built in the Holy Temple. And this would be outright against Jewish law because we kind of have a statue, like an idol in the Holy Temple. So they appeased him and they said, you know what, all the baby boys that will be born in the next year, we'll name them after you. And so many, many Jewish children are named Alexander. Until today, you find many Jewish people with the name Alexander. Like Sender, a lot of time they're called, but Alexander's their name. Let's do some women. Dinah, the daughter of Leah. So she was supposed to be born a boy, a male, and her mother did a quick accounting and realized she knew, I guess, certain divine things in the future, and she knew that Yaakov will have 12 children. There'll be 12 tribes. She already had 6 sons. The 2 concubines had 2 sons each, so that's 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then that would leave Rachel to have 2 sons. She would at least have as many sons as the concubines. But if Dinah, if the baby that was in her was going to be a male and be born, she would have 7 sons, and then that would leave Rachel with only 1 son. So she said, God, please judge my sister favorably and turn this child into a female. And so Dinah was born a female, a girl, and her mother named her Dinah. Another one is Esther, the famous Esther from the Purim story. So Esther means to hide. So they said her real name was Hadassah, but they called her Esther because God hid himself within the story of Purim. We don't see God's revealed, intervention in the story. And also in Persian, Istahar, or at least Old Persian, that means like a shining star or a shining moon or something like that. Okay, so that's what she has her name. Okay, so now what else about Jewish names? What else about names? Okay, so another thing before we start, that is also very important for a baby girl. They don't have a bris, but it is important to make a kiddush in the shul in honor of a baby girl being born. There's actually stories I've heard of, like women or girls who had, let's say, certain issues. Maybe they couldn't find their match or other things that happened with them, and they weren't sure. They found out that their parents never actually made a kiddush in their honor in the shul when they were born, and so they made a kiddush even when they were an adult, and it's to bring like good things, good mazel to them. Well, you had a baby, you got your naming, you got a kiddush too, right? So there you go, you did it. Yeah, and then your life was good, right?
Yeah, I feel a lot luckier. I don't know, different.
Okay, good. See, good. Thank God. Okay, so what does your name come from? Anyone here want to share how they got their Jewish name? Anyone have any interesting stories?
My name is Elisa.
Okay.
And I was born in Iran. Elisa is something that you don't even hear it. So people would call me Ali Reza because that's a very Muslim boy name.
Oh.
Anyway, my dad's very good buddy that they're still in touch. It was like he named his first daughter Aliza. She was born actually in Israel. They just migrated. It was many years ago. They migrated to Israel. They had the first girl. They named it Aliza. So my name it's after her name.
Oh,
I was named after
and what does Eliza mean? Tell everybody.
Happy.
It does mean
Joy.
Joy, yeah, yeah.
It's my nephew's wife's name, Elisa. Yeah, beautiful.
Anybody else have an interesting name story? Or just who they're named after?
Sarah Lee.
Oh, you know, Shelley's name is also Sarah Lynn.
Yeah.
It's really cute. Okay.
Sarah Lee, huh?
Very
Not
nice.
a food company. Darn. I
Okay.
know. Oh.
So who chooses the name for a child? So it's not, even though some people want it to be the grandmother wants to change the name. But yeah, well, that's fair.
Oh, my favorite.
Tell us about your name.
Well, it took a number of years, and I.
Okay, so sorry, your parents never gave you a Jewish
No, I
name.
never got a Jewish name, but my brother and sister did. And my sister, yeah, so she's Marilyn, Miriam, and Jeff is Yosef. Batya, I'll never forget. It's like I've always, I don't know, I just been taken with it. And I remember I went to the rabbi like 6 years ago. And I said, I want to have a Jewish name. And I said, I like Batya. And he gave me a book of all these names. And he goes, before you choose, just look, just see if there's something else that like resonates with you. And then I gave him back the book, and I said, and he said, did you choose a Hebrew name? I said, I did. He said, what is it? I said, Batya. And there was, I don't know, she was kind of rebellious. She is God's daughter. Come on, you can't get any better than that. And it's very similar. I am there. I saved, how's this one? Batya, not me. I saved the most, what do I say, important, influential person that ever existed, which was Moshe. One of, well, at least in the Jewish community, everyone else, the Christian
So saying
community.
Bat, yeah,
they say-
daughter of God.
Yeah. So I don't know.
Okay.
I just like it.
And just by the way, and she sat here about the fuchsia buses, like with a whole bunch of guests, like, what should I name myself? What should I name? And everyone's like throwing out names, and like she kept on like mixing everything, or I don't know. I guess the Batya stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
And why is it? So let's discuss that. That's a good.
And it's Sarah, and you're Sarah. You
Oh,
chose
Sarah.
Sarah.
myself.
Okay.
You chose it all
Yeah, I
yourself.
converted, so I have to choose on my own. So I asked, okay, you have to choose a name. And I spoke with my fiance at that time. And we were thinking, I mean, I chose myself, first of all, I liked Sarah because, I don't know, this is the most common for me back in Russia. You know,
Sarah
Sarah is a
Navratilova, yeah.
Jewish name, and everyone has a lot of jokes about
Sorry,
Sarah.
Sarah.
Yeah.
Sorry, Sarah.
Sarah, yeah.
Oh,
Sarah.
And they have a lot of jokes.
Yeah. Sarah, that's kind of
Yeah,
Yeah.
always. And there's like a lot of very funny situations with Sarah. And also when I started to go to the school, Rabbi Block, and we learned the Torah, and there are a lot of stories about Abraham and Sarah, and interesting things that came up to me and my fiance at that time. We're like, oh, Abraham and Sarah are making a lot of money. They go in there and he's the sister. It's not the wife, it's the sister. It's a very cool trip. So, and the other story that Abraham was very welcoming everyone and he stands, and when angels came or guests come in, he never had any question with Sarah. Sarah is always in the tent. Like whenever somebody is asking him, he knows that where is Sarah. And we have an internal joke with my husband, where is Sarah? Sarah is in the kitchen. You know? So it's like kind of
He likes all women in kitchen.
Yeah. Sarah's always much in the kitchen.
Everyone loves the name Sarah. Sarah Rich.
It's always one of the popular names, like we have the popular name list. Jody, do you have a Jewish?
Yeah, just the same as my regular name.
Good to oh, okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Very nice.
Although she was a powerful woman. as well.
Yes. So it's the parents who choose the name. So I know sometimes, you have a family and there's a lot of like, I say politics or pushing, one mother saying, change the name of the child after my da 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 da, and the other side of it. it's not up to it's not the grandmother that chooses the name, it's the parents. So not just to keep things the peace, but it's because the Hashem actually gives the parents a divine inspiration to know what to name the child. Because what's the child? We don't know what soul the child is. We don't know, what their energies are. But that soul, that body, that soul and body connection, that first baby needs to have some type of name. And once you name them, they get a soul, they get their energies, and they get their kind of channel what their power, what they have with their potential in them. It gets channeled. And the Hebrew name is made up of Hebrew letters. As we know, every Hebrew letter has a lot of deep significance and deep mystical explanation. And by putting those letters together and making that name, that helps create, I should say, the energy and the path of that soul. So people not many times they'll name their child after either someone, like a big rabbi or a big person in Jewish history, or someone very special, or a family member. And some Sephardim specifically name after living relatives. Some do, some don't.
I was going to actually, I had an issue with that.
Okay.
But, they wanted to name the kids after either life or dead, but
You're the parent. It's up to you. It's whatever you feel. But yeah, so there are some Sephardi tradition that they specifically name after a live relative, not after a relative that passed away. I actually know somebody who they ended up coming to Chabad and becoming very religious because the guy's father passed away, and he came to say Kaddish. And when they got married, had children, and when he had a boy, he's like, I don't have to name it after my father because it's not our tradition. Our tradition is to name it after the father who's still alive. So he didn't even have and he didn't feel any. It was Iraqi, I think, an Iraqi Jew. Had no feeling, oh, I should name it after my father, because to him it's no, he named it after the Rebbe. but each tradition has their specific tradition. I know, right? I know some, let's say Iranian friends, and it's so it was such a special thing when their grandchild was named after them while they were alive. So each tradition has their tradition, but each place has their tradition. But either way, it's the parents who have the divine inspiration, and usually try to pick someone who they want that child to grow up to be like, or at least someone carry on that, let's say, whatever the grandmother, grandfather, whoever it was that they were named after, kind of carry on that energy. So they usually probably won't name them after, Al Capone, but try to name after somebody who, have something good. So text number 4. When a father and mother select a name for their newborn child, it is not random or arbitrary. Rather, God places in their mouths the name that is essential for that particular soul. And obviously, sometimes people don't name after somebody. They just name a name that they feel is right, or feel correct, or feel that is, somehow connected. So again, even if you were not named, doesn't mean that you never got your soul in you. But because the parents still named you some name, and you still, you're still there. But definitely to have your Jewish name helps a lot. Anything? Okay, so then throughout childhood, the godly soul is not yet fully integrated in with the body. So, once a child reaches the age of Jewish maturation, which for a girl is 12 and for a boy is 13, their godly soul is now complete. So what's a bar or bat mitzvah? It's not just, it's not, oh, you have to have a celebration, or you have to have, be called up to the Torah, you have to have some specific ceremony or ritual. But when a girl becomes 12 or a boy becomes 13, they are now considered emotionally mature, or have a certain mental maturity to them, and they are now responsible for Torah observance. So it doesn't make a difference if they did something, if they grew up without ever going to a Jewish class, or if they grew up going to Jewish school their whole entire life, no difference. Once they turn 12 or 13, that's what happens. So the celebration marks marks it and makes it exciting, and as I say, people don't want to just have sad things to commemorate or get together about. If we have something to celebrate, why not celebrate? If we have something good that's happening, let's enjoy that. So if someone's becoming 12, someone's becoming 13, it doesn't make a difference if they read from the Torah, if they don't read from the Torah, if they do this, if they do that, if they learned, if they didn't learn, you could still celebrate it. But also have to understand that you're celebrating not just the big party, not the bar part, but the mitzvah part, that they should understand that they are responsible to do mitzvahs. They can, now be, in essence, a Jewish responsible adult and do things as that. I don't know exactly at what time in history this idea of having a bar mitzvah celebration, making it a big thing, and having the boy read from Torah. I think that's more of like a 20th century invention, American 20th century invention. Yeah. So like, and when life was good, like when life, when things were good, they weren't running from pogroms or running from, persecution, and they had the money to deal with it. Yeah. But
So with the bar mitzvah, the 13-year-old boy, be brought up to the.
so I'll explain to you the myths and the facts. Once a boy turns 13, they can be part of a minyan. They can be counted as an adult man. So they can be part of the minyan. So that's number one. They can be in the minyan. And number two is once a boy turns 13, they can be called up to the Torah. So because they could have an aliyah for the first time, they mark it. Oh wow, let's do this. Let's have an aliyah. And there is a tradition to, actually in the book, you can look, there's different things you can do on your birthday. One of the things is before your birthday, a man should have an aliyah, be called up to the Torah in honor of his birthday. So that would be it. Now the question, what's interesting to note is why, so 12 and 13, let's say for today's day and age, I would say is pretty young for it to be considered mature or adult. Anyone have any thoughts on that? Why? For today, look, you can't drive a car until you're at least 16, 17. You can't, huh? No, what I'm saying is why is Judaism considered 12 and 13 a mature age? Okay. Anyone have any? No, it's just any thoughts on the whole thing. I think probably also just I'm saying like even just like a century ago, I think people who they were actually people who were 12 or 13 were working, right? Were responsible, had much more responsibilities.
I think it's also like throughout the word Israel, Iran, I grew up in Israel and Iran at that age kind of. They can do a lot. They were even in Russia, you probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. They have responsibility. They're responsible.
Yes or no?
People working.
No, it's I don't think it's that. You teach kids at a younger age. Here, maturity, they are mature. Here,
Yeah.
So if they have no responsibility, then they have no reason to grow up.
right.
Yeah, so like even though you see in like homes where there's a lot of children, the kids who are already 8, 9, 10 are helping taking care of the kids who are 2 or 3 years old, and they're definitely much more resilient, responsible, resilient, and like they're much more independent because of that, definitely. So yeah, I think now I think it's more of a generational thing that today's kids are not don't have that same responsibility or that same, and yes, because we have easier lifestyle, because life is better. So there's a give and take to it, in my opinion. There is a lot of good for someone to feel needed. I think that's another reason why there's so much mental health issues today. If they don't have any, or you're saying, okay, you need something to do here. We'll give this, what's the things to do here? Play a game here, play tennis, here do this, here do that. As opposed to if I don't do this, if I don't milk the cow won't get milked, or I'm saying like the whole thing. So there's a give and take to it all. But yes, their life was difficult and they didn't have time to like think about and ponder about life. Okay, but yeah, so what it really is, it's kids even at a young age can learn and be taught for certain things, certain knowledge. This is right, this is wrong, this is this is how we do this. This is the consequence of this. But to really understand it, to really integrate into your life and really understand the consequences and take and kind of like own it and understand if I do this, this is going to happen, that takes a certain amount of maturity. So a child's not really understand, okay, I'm going to do this, this is going to happen to me. And even a teenager, you know, it's hard, but the Torah says, you know what, once you are mature, once you're physically mature, you know, your body's maturing, but also your emotions and your mental state, your understanding is maturing. And at the age of 12 or 13, we can give you the capacity to control your actions and to make sure that, and that's why God gives you your full godly soul, that you have that right balance to kind of like take mind over matter. So mind, which is like the soul, to take that over your heart, over your bodily desires. And why the girl at 12 and the boy at 13? Today, a lot of conservative and reform, you know, people will do it all at the same age. But yeah, so you right away see a 12-year-old girl and a 12-year-old boy are probably not the same, right? Right. So so it actually says in the Talmud, text number 5, what is Rabbi Yehuda the Prince's rationale for insisting the females reach age of mental maturity a year before males? It is due to a truth alluded to in the verse regarding the creation of Eve. God built the side they had taken from the man into a woman. The verb vayiven, built, from bana, teaches us that God gifted woman with a greater measure of understanding, bina, than he did men. So women have, so Eve was created, or bana was built from Adam's rib. So the word bana in Hebrew means build, but the same letters make up the word bina, which means like to understand or intuition. So women or girls have a greater mental maturity, a greater intuition and understanding of right from wrong, and just understanding than men usually do, and boys do. It takes boys a little bit extra. We have a little bit of an edge. We have an edge.
But then there's the man's world, but women are, you know, it's just kind of.
Yeah.
isolated,
Yeah.
whatever.
Okay. So you would know, Lisa, would you know what's a good some, you know, any famous I don't know, like playhouses or theaters in Tel Aviv? Okay. 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 So there was this I don't remember where it was, but there was this play, an off-Broadway show, I guess, being put on somewhere in Tel Aviv, and the lights are out, everyone's watching the stage. All of a sudden, someone screams out, "Doctor, doctor, is there a doctor in the house?" And everyone freezes, the lights turn on, the show stops. 3 guys jump up and say, I'm a doctor, I'm a doctor. And the lady says, "So I have a good girl for you." So now we're going to discuss marriage. Okay, so the one more step in the completion of the soul is, as we said, so Adam, God made with his hands, he handcrafted, and he realized that's not good for a man to be alone. He's going to get into trouble because they don't have that mental maturity. So he created woman, he created Eve, he created Chava. And it says he created Ezer Kenegdo, a helper opposite him. And we're not going to discuss what that means because it can mean many things, but it could be for the good, it could be for the bad. But either way, he created the woman. And so each soul has like a puzzle piece, has somewhere else in the world, a soul that will fit their soul, a matching soul. Something's like a soul half. I've seen actually a very interesting article recently that explained that you can have it your exact soulmate, you find your literal other half of your soul, or there's kind of like you're, I guess, within like a certain pool or certain area of souls, and any one of that group will match you too. So that's very interesting because I've heard so many different things, and this was like a very good source. I thought that was very interesting. So some people will find their soulmate and they'll connect and beyond, and then some people will get married and they'll be happily married, but they won't have that same like strong connection, extreme connection. Yeah, very interesting. Anyway, that's side note. So anyway, so at birth, we just have to find the right guy. And so that's the whole. Oh no, you don't. I mean, you don't know for sure. You might have an inner feeling. You don't know for sure. Yeah.
I mean, right, but we have to look at it and
That too, yeah, yeah. We discussed that on last Wednesday. We had a lot of discussion about this in our class. You can watch it on YouTube if you want, but right now, yes. So the soul enters the body at birth. At the circumcision or the baby naming, the soul begins to fuse with the body. At the bar mitzvah, the profound deepening of the soul-body fusions because the godly soul is there. And at marriage, the soul unites with the partner reaching completion. Does not mean that you're not a complete person without your match, but kind of. Because who here didn't try to find their soulmate? Who here never felt, oh, I want to, I'm looking for someone? Who never felt that search or that yearning to find their other half? I think most people, everyone here did at some point in their life, and that's what I'm saying, has. If they're not married now. So I'm saying if you're not married, don't say, oh my God, I'm not a complete person. I'm lost, I'm gone, I'm not, forget it, my life's mission is over. No, but as long as you had that moment. Oh, really? So I have a story, and I don't. Yeah, no, but I have heard. So yes, you should do whatever you can to find your other half and to marry them, and definitely I think almost everybody has that yearning or has that search to find them. If they haven't found them yet, because there is a certain, dynamic of that, like how God created us. He wants us each to find our match. But it doesn't mean that you can't live a fulfilling life. And there's actually, there is a story I read once. I should really try to find it again. I looked for it and I did not find it. But I know where I saw it. I saw it was a magazine where there was a woman who was born in Sweden to Holocaust survivor parents. And she started to grow and became more connected with her Judaism, but there was almost no religious people in Sweden at that time, and she kind of was the only Jewish teacher, and she would teach in the Sunday school and do Jewish things. And she herself, even for herself, she taught herself about Judaism, but she didn't really have any teacher who taught to teach her. And at a certain point that she really wanted to move to Israel, and she figured she'll go to Israel, she'll find somebody, she'll be able to get married, and she should live easily. She'll have kosher food, she'll have everything Jewish. No, it's easy to live Jewish life in Israel. And she wrote to the Rebbe, and the Rebbe told her, if you leave Sweden, who's going to teach the people there? And he told her, your mission in life is to stay in Sweden and teach the Jews there. So she never got married, but she did spend, but at least she knew what her mission was. And she spent the rest of her life teaching, the children there, yes, Judaism. And without her, and eventually the Chabad sent emissaries there, sent shluchim there, sent a rabbi there, and they met her, and she worked with them a lot, but she never ended up getting married. But this was direct that the Rebbe told her. So we don't, obviously everyone should try to find their soulmate. And yes, it's not easy, and sometimes it's a big search, and sometimes it's hard, and it's that alone is a mission in life. But it doesn't mean that someone's not complete, or someone's not fulfilling their mission if they didn't, or if they don't. Okay, so now why are we talking about marriage? So besides for the fact that it is right, we find our other half as more of a completion of the soul. We're going to learn a little bit about the wedding, and then we'll explain to you why. So the wedding ceremony has two main parts. The actual chuppah has two main parts. There's the kiddushin, the betrothal, and that is when the groom gives the bride the ring or something of value. And so he says, you will now become sacred to me as the laws of the laws of Moshe. And in the old days, they would actually do this at the engagement. They would do this, months or years earlier. But the problem with that is that once you do the Kiddushin, there is a certain, it's like part marriage, there's a certain connection of the couple, of the man and the woman. And if something happens in the middle, especially in the days where Jews were persecuted a lot, sometimes it would be a pogrom, and something would happen to one of them, and they wouldn't know exactly, they couldn't, and meanwhile the person just couldn't get married to anyone else. They were already betrothed to this one person. Or if let's say they decided they found something out about each other that they didn't like, but they had to break it up. To break it up was also not a simple thing. They couldn't just say, okay, we break the engagement, goodbye. There was certain halachic things they had to do for that. So, so today we do it all under the chuppah. We do the betrothal, which is giving the ring. And the question is, why a ring? Why do we give the ring at the chuppah? Anybody have any insight to that? Good question. Oh, they gave different things, a whole bunch of different, a whole bunch of stuff. Let's see. Bracelet, nose ring, yeah. But why do we specifically give a ring? Okay. Closer to the heart.
There's a vein that goes to the heart from.
Your finger. Interesting. Okay. Oh, so there are a lot of mystical reasons. We're going to discuss a few, and then we're going to get to like something very interesting. Okay. So one reason is it's visible. You look at it on the finger, it reminds you that you're married. It reminds that you are, I don't say belong to someone, but you're a married person. Another thing, it's not like why don't we just give like I don't know, a couch or or again the necklace was like something, just that's there, like something of value, because you don't want it to be something that belongs to the house. And it just becomes a family item, like a household item. You want it to be that she specifically hers and only she wears it. It's only something that she uses. Okay, so it's not something that becomes like part of the family, or like the candlesticks. Very nice, but like everyone enjoys the candlesticks. The ring, it really is like special to her. High commitments specifically for the wife. And now the third reason. We're gonna have to go through a whole series of things to get to the third reason. And that is that we have the holiday of Shavuos coming up, the day that the God gave the Torah. And there are many, many, many different explanations and midrashim and everything, how God giving the Torah, or God giving the Torah to the Jewish people, is the marriage of Hashem and the Jewish people, God and the Jewish people. And this always like kind of boggled my mind, because like I never really related or connected to it. But like the more and more I've been teaching these classes, the more and more I'm getting it or understanding it. Maybe the longer I'm married, I don't know what it is. But finally figuring out, oh, that's what it means. Yeah, that's true. So let's hear it. So there's a lot of symbolism of the giving of the Torah, of the wedding of the Jewish people and God with a Jewish wedding. And the many things we do at the Jewish wedding, God did at the giving of the Torah. So the first thing is, before you get married, what do you need? Okay, this is kind of like before you find the guy, what do you need to help you find the guy or find the girl, whatever it is? You need somebody there to help you along. Shadchan, the matchmaker, okay? Who was the matchmaker when God and the Jewish people got married, when God gave the Torah to the Jewish people? Moshe Rabbeinu, yes, it says Moshe was the shadchan. So first, okay, text number 6. Here's a general principle regarding wedding practices. All of the customs that concern a bride and groom are derived from the giving of the Torah. For God then appeared as a groom before his bride, Israel. So in traditional Jewish circles, many people use a shadchan. Doesn't mean a stereotypical shadchan, like official shadchan. It could be a friend, it could be a neighbor, it could be a relative who kind of put you guys together. Yeah, no, that's kind of a shadchan. Yeah. So text number 7, as the Jews stood at Mount Sinai, the men and the women arranged separately. God instructed Moses, go to the Jewish women and ask them whether they wish to receive the Torah. So God was smart. He said, Moshe, you're the shadchan. I'm going to tell you, don't go to the husband and ask the husband if the child wants to, if we should make a shidduch. We should go to the wife. The wife always knows best. The woman knows best. So God instructed Moshe how to go about the match. Moshe, they went to the woman and he asked the woman first to, told them about the Torah. And the men said, yeah, just leave it to my wife. The men, right, they leave it to the woman. They don't want to deal with these things. They only want to deal with big things, like who's winning the war in Ukraine. And I don't know what are we going to do about the price of oil, but like, how to take care of all the mundane and practical things we can take care of, that usually ends up falling on the woman, right? So Moshe was a shadchan. He spoke to the Jewish women. They said, yes, we'll do it. And now what else happened at Sinai? Usually, before that, let's start with some of the good things happen. The next thing is that traditionally, although I know it may not be this in all circles, the wedding is held in the bride's home city, or the bride says, if the bride's, kind of says, this is where I want the wedding. Like for me, my parents lived in Chicago, my husband's family lived here, but I was living in New York for quite a few years and all my friends were in New York. I wanted the wedding in New York. So that's where the wedding was, the date of the wedding. I decided when the wedding, what the wedding would be. So God, we didn't have to go up to heaven to get the Torah, but God came down to our city. God came down to earth to give the Torah. Okay? Came to the bride city. Another thing is that when the bride and groom go to the chuppah, so some people may escort them or not, many different traditions or things. One thing for sure is always candles. They have either people carry candles down or they have candles laid out down to the chuppah. And so what was the candles at Mount Sinai? It says there was thunder and lightning. So it was lightning that lit up the chuppah between us and God. And another thing is, and we're going to go through these things. Okay, there we go. And another thing is that we break a glass at the end of the chuppah ceremony. Why is this? The destruction of the Beis HaMikdash. So we want to remember, even though we're having a happy and good time now, we always have to remember life's not complete until the Beis HaMikdash is rebuilt. Some people say, or the glass that was broken at the Mount Sinai was the Luchos. He said that they said that the golden calf, but Moses broke the tablets, and that is also reminds us of that when we break the glass. The next thing is we have a lot of celebration. Once the reception starts, we dance and and then some people try to be really get out of themselves and they make somersaults and they make headstands, or you have those battle dancers if you want to, the good entertainment, but specifically like the people who go upside down, they're going with their heads. So what happened at Mount Sinai? Hashem came down and Moses went up. So kind of like turned on their heads. Okay, and what about the ring? Because now we finally got to the ring, which is the beginning. So the ring, let's read text number 8. It is also taught that the Torah itself was like the wedding ring with which God married Israel. The revelation at Sinai, where God gave the Torah to Israel, is said to be like a wedding. The Torah is like a ring. It is endless, and as soon as one finishes, one must begin again. Each time one studies a Torah lesson, one gains new insights. The Torah is therefore like a wedding ring, a circle without a beginning or end. And as we said, we make it ours. We read it, we learn it, and we try to, really integrate it in our life. So we make it ours. So these are all the ways that that a wedding is like the giving of the Torah. Now, what's more important, to have $1 million wedding or to have a great marriage? Right? Who cares about the wedding? Because the real point is that the marriage should have shalom bayit, should have peace in the home, should have harmony, you should have a good relationship. And so the Torah commands us that the first year of that the bride and groom are married, the groom has to gladden his wife. What does that mean? So so yes, the man has to go out of his way to make sure his wife is happy and make sure his wife, all her needs and all her pleasures and all her, everything is fulfilled. And with the Torah, we learn this from the Torah text 9, is in Deuteronomy and Devarim. When a man weds a new wife, he shall not go out to army, nor shall he be conscripted for any war effort. He shall be absolved of all duties, so that he can remain home for 1 year and delight his wife, whom he has taken. So he has to stay home. He can't just run out to play golf. It's specifically in the first year of marriage that the husband and wife shouldn't leave each other, go out of town or anything, unless there are certain circumstances and they would have to ask permission, make sure that the other agrees that it's okay. So the idea is that to stay together and to be there for the first year. And once that is in place, hopefully that's a catalyst for the rest of their life. Their relationship is more cemented, and it kind of gives the idea of how their life is going to be, hopefully, and they stay and for the rest of their life, they are more, they understand the need for each other to be there for each other. Now, did Hashem do this? God did the same, it says over here. Okay, whoops. Okay, so God did this. He stayed in the desert with us for 40 years. He gave us everything we needed. We didn't have to work. We didn't have to plow the land. We didn't have to worry about anything. We got our food. We got our sustenance. We got everything from God. He stayed with us in the desert for 40 years until we went into the land of Israel. So that was our honeymoon year with God. Okay. Now we're going to go on to the last cycle of life, of the life cycle, and that is end of life. What? Okay, I'll tell you in a second. Yeah, it means tear. Okay. Okay, so there is a custom in Jewish law about tearing one's clothes when someone passes away. Today, it's usually done at the funeral and at the burial. Traditionally, it used to be that when they felt that someone was passing away, they would try to get a minion. Even today, I guess, if it's possible, which I don't know how often it's possible, is to have a minion of people around, or many people around the person passing. And as soon as the soul would go out, if you were there, you had to tear your clothes. But people didn't want to go because they, oh no, in the old days, people had maybe one set of clothing, 2 sets of clothing. They didn't have a lot of clothes, and like they couldn't just say, okay, I'm going to someone who's dying, I'm going to put on my old suit. So people stopped going, didn't want to go to we want to call it a deathbed. And so the rabbis changed it that, at the burial is when the person, the family, the immediate family will tear their clothing, but everyone else should come. So the idea of tearing tearing the clothing is called ripping kriya. Tearing kriya comes from the Talmud says here, those who are present at the moment of the soul depart are required to rend their clothing, for such an event is akin to burning of a Torah scroll. When someone passes away, it's like a Torah scroll was burnt. What does that mean? How is a person like a Torah scroll? And how is a person's passing like a Torah scroll? Anyone have any insight on that before you read ahead? Anyone have any tips? Oh, we'll get to that. Yeah. Well, anyone can anything on their own?
The Torah is unchangeable, so it's already done what it can do in your life. This is stock here. It feels like this is leftover kind of sitting down, whatever you did in the midst of the life, mission, everything is stopped here, and it's it. It cannot be changed anymore.
Okay, interesting.
It's already
Okay.
completed.
Okay, so let's start. Okay, so for my Nachman, these Ramban explains text 10b. Nachman of blessed memory explains that when a body harbors a soul, it becomes like a parchment of a Torah scroll on which God's sacred names are inscribed. So a Torah scroll just comes from an animal hide, right? It's a piece of parchment. It's nothing. But once you write God's name on it, it becomes holy, and that holiness will never go away. So a body may have been just a physical matter, a physical body, but once a soul was housed in it for however many years, it becomes holy. And even if the soul departs from it, the body remains holy. And even if their body has some type of impediment or some type of, today, God forbid, there's illnesses that maybe traps a person in their body, but does that make the person less holy or less able? The body is still a very precious thing. So let's say, for example, I was thinking about, say, my mother, she had Parkinson's, right? She could barely move, but she was still able to teach or make you happy and give over beautiful things. Or there's a rabbi, I don't know if you've heard of Steve Horowitz, he has ALS, he can't move his whole entire body. The only thing you could do is use a special machine that he looks at with the eyes and it types for him. That's what it's called. And he's able to write Torah thoughts, and then people print it and send it out. It gets sent out every single week. He's here and lives here in LA. Very clever. You can look him up, Rabbi Yitzhak Horowitz. So the body, the Torah scroll might be burnt. Something might be wrong with it, but it's still sacred, it's still holy, it's still something special about it. Now, beyond that, so that's not really a burnt Torah scroll, but that's the idea that even if something's a little bit wrong with it, it's always going to be holy and always something special about it. A body of a Jew is like a parchment. The soul is Hashem's name written on it, and the parchment is from animal. And it could be the leather of that animal could have been used for anything. It could have been used to make shoes. It could have been used to make a chair or a purse or anything. And it was used for what? For the Torah. Exactly. It was used for something else. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. 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 We're almost done, but I guess whatever. They'll catch up. Okay. Anyway, so so with the body, a body has the animal soul. The body, right, is the animalistic tendencies. And that's like the animal parchment. And it could have been a vehicle for anything, right? The body could do anything in this world. It could be going after all animalistic desires, could have been anything. And a body, but has a soul in it. So hopefully it does sometime miss it. Even if a person, maybe not a, you know, I'll say a good person, or maybe they weren't a religious person, quote unquote, but I'm sure every person has some merit, has done some mitzvah in their life. And that makes that body, that animal, turns that animal hide, the animal of the person, into holiness. And that is very, so it's very interesting in Judaism. So first of all, in the appendix of this lesson, if you, whoever has the book, there is a lot of interesting articles in the back that we're not gonna have time to get to today, but you should read it. If now you can take the book home this week because it's the last class. So one of the interesting things is a body is holy. So even if the person dies, so we know that Judaism does not believe in cremation. We have to bury the body. That's considered respect and holiness to the body. And text 10c, all who handle a corpse must be aware that they are handling a holy entity. The human body is not merely a container for something sacred. The spiritually exalted soul that is services, rather, the body itself becomes sanctified with independent holiness, similar to a Torah scroll. So the body itself, the actual body of the human being, becomes holy, and it can't just be discarded or burnt or anything. When a person passes away, the family or whoever calls something called the Chevra Kadisha, the people who take care of the body after the death. And the body is never left alone. There's always someone guarding or watching it. They take extreme care for the body. The people who make the Tara, who do the special purification to the body, they at the end of the process have to ask forgiveness that maybe they didn't respect the body perfectly. Okay, so even though the person's not alive, they still ask forgiveness to the body and say, sorry, I'm sorry if we, you know, handled you roughly, if we didn't do something proper. And there's a lot of respect that was done to the body, even after it's whatever. And if you, some of you may have seen, let's say, when there's like, unfortunately, like terrorist incidents or accidents, let's say in Israel or Jewish people, there's a group of people that were called Zakah, and they come and they clean up the blood from the street or collect anything that's remains, not because they're trying to make it clean, but because every part of the body has to be buried, is told is. So even the blood shouldn't remain on the street. When a person, let's say, passes away in a hospital, if there's blood or if there's tubes and things like that, they should be, the Chevra Kadisha will take it with the body. So it's not like separate, they don't just pull out the tubes. As I know, remember when my father and my mother passed away, it's like aldering was, I mean, it's crazy, but we had instructed to make sure just to leave, and they know that already, because if they dealt with other Jewish people, you know, leave everything in place, and they just cut the tubes that, you know, and the people who come to take the body from the Jewish organization, they come and they make sure to take whatever is needed.
What is it called? Is it okay or is it still? In case God forbid somebody dies from some sort of the police have to do like
An autopsy. So it's better not to do. There's maybe certain things they could do, but they shouldn't take apart the body or shouldn't take things out that the person won't be able to bear with. So that it's respect to the body not to do an autopsy. If it could be stopped, if there's any way not to do the autopsy, that's what should be done. And it's not always an easy situation. Okay, thanks for joining, Jody.
Yeah, I'm just gonna. do
No
that.
problem. And just make sure if you have my permit, just put it back in that
Yeah,
bag.
yeah, I will.
Okay. Okay.
Oh,
Oh, okay. Okay, so that is how respectful and holy and everything we take the body is, that we take so much care even to a body that is not alive anymore.
Yeah, I'm just gonna be in my car.
Okay, well, you're welcome. Okay. Yeah, okay, good. Okay. text number 11. Man was created in God's image, just as there is no difference between the utmost respect we must afford to a complete Torah scroll and a single letter that has been detached from a Torah scroll, so it is forbidden to show disrespect to even a single bone from sacred body created in God's image. So even if someone has to have a part of their body amputated, it should be buried. So I know somebody who had to have a finger amputated, and he wasn't sure what to do with it. Like he didn't like if he, so the Chevra Kadisha, they held on to it. Unfortunately, like he passed away of like I don't know how much later, maybe 2 years later. And when he was buried, they buried it with him. But technically could be buried beforehand also.
Oh, so they hold on to that first?
Or they just bury it right
And
away.
they
Yeah.
bury it, and then you're buried.
No, so in this case, it was a finger, something small. I guess they were able to keep it in the refrigerator, whatever.
What if like the leg or something?
It-
So it's separated from the body, like the-
So it could be buried anywhere in the Jewish time. It doesn't have to be buried together with the body, but
Oh,
it,
okay.
I guess, if it could be a
Body parts.
body part.
Wow, I never heard that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Even a stillborn or baby born, I'm not sure at what point. I mean, like a baby, let's say, at some point along the pregnancy is also buried.
Okay, so what if you have a organ transplant? Yeah, organ, and they remove that.
That's a really good question. Okay. So it's a whole discussion. So if it's an organ that could be, you can live without, so like someone donates a kidney, and a kidney, you have the other kidney to live. So you're doing a big mitzvah, you gave someone else a kidney, and so you leave something behind. Your car key. So if you, I mean, if you have a body part from someone else, you're buried. That's it. Whatever. The person's buried once they're done. But if someone gives, so that is one. Okay. So there's a few issues of giving organ donation. You got one. So he's buried with it. The person who gave it. Oh. No. Oh, okay, okay. So that's what they live with. That's what they just buried with it. Nothing. Oh, one that got that. Oh, you're saying the one that took out. Oh. If they could bury it, they should bury it. Yeah. Yeah.
So I remember the way you're talking, many people actually donate their body or body parts to
Science.
science, and in Judaism, it's a big no-no, right? It's supposed to be very-
There's a few reasons why. So besides for this reason, this is one reason, which is a big problem. The other reason is because if they cannot use the organ unless the person is, like they say, their heart has to still be beating, so they could be brain dead, but they're still not completely dead. If they're going to use an organ, the person has to be at a certain state where Judaism would still call it alive.
They don't remove.
So once it's dead for an hour, it's not going to help. Once it's dead for, so that is another big problem. But Judaism does allow to get, I know this sounds prejudiced, does allow to get an organ donation, allowed to be given an organ donation.
Where was?
Allowed to get an organ donation, but to give, to receive. But to give, it causes a lot of halakha. There are certain rabbis that will allow it, but it does cause a lot of halakhic issues. Yeah. No, so kidney. So I know many Jewish people. There actually is a Jewish organization called Renewal. They're actually doing a campaign out to raise money, and they help match donors, specifically like kidney donors, because kidney you can live without. And there's also partial liver donor. Blood for sure, yeah, that blood donor. It's all donation. There are some, I know there are many religious people who have donated kidneys and donated livers, especially through this organization, because they help match people up like quicker than, let's say, in the hospital. Huh? Should be, yeah.
So you can accept an organ, but you can't.
You can only give an
If you
organ that you can
die,
live, right,
You
you can only give an organ that you could still live without. So partial liver or donation, organ donation, kidney donation, I don't know if there's, and blood donation, I'm not considering
I
all
have to say something, but. who's
that's a lot of
playing-
prejudice.
Who's playing God here? Who's playing?
No, because if
God
someone
that-
chooses
that
themselves,
some-
no.
Did you buy your car keys?
If someone chooses, listen. If someone chooses to give their organs, whoever that person is, so they're Jewish, not Jewish, whatever it is, they chose to do it, the organs there, it's available, it could be used. But if from a halachic standpoint, for someone to give an organ, they cannot give an organ unless it's something they can live without. And
But
to,
they're dead already.
but that's what I'm telling you, they're not really fully dead.
No.
When they give an organ, when they donate someone's heart, someone's eye, someone's, or whatever else they donate, they're and then also the other issue comes up is the respect of the body. The third issue that comes up is if that person, let's say, has relatives and they want to mourn that person and there's no real burial place to mourn them because they give their whole body for science, and the same thing problem with cremation, many times that causes a lot of unnecessary suffering for the people who remain behind. They have no place to really mourn. Or no, okay. So anyway, let's continue. So now to the last part, okay. When someone passes away, there is a verse that we say, and we mentioned it last class, and it's text number 12. Oh, sorry, not text number 12. Okay, sorry, text number 13a. We're going to skip for a minute. It's the omnipresent console you among other mourners Zion and Jerusalem. So there is something that we say to like that you console the person the mourner who lost their family. Now, the question is, why are we saying that you'll be consoled amongst the mourners of Zion and Jerusalem? Last class, I think we discussed it a little bit. We're going to discuss it a little bit more this week. There is a concept in Judaism which many people don't realize is a Jewish concept, and that is Tchiyat HaMesim, resurrection of the dead. In Hebrew, Tchiyat HaMesim, resurrection. Okay, so Maimonides, Rambam, was a big doctor, right? A very big logical person. He was also a big halachic codifier, and he wrote the Ani Mamim, the beliefs of faith. One of the main beliefs of Jewish faith is to believe that when Mashiach comes, the people who are gone will come alive again. And many people don't realize that that's a Jewish concept. They think it's a Christian concept. Yeah, because it's a Jewish thing. It's very Jewish. Yes, I'm saying. Text. Yes. So text number 12, going back to text number 12, the resurrection of the dead is a foundation of Torah and Moses. One cannot maintain a connection to the Jewish religion without this belief. So when Mashiach comes, there'll be no more death, and all who passed away will once again live through their original body. So another reason why the body should be, even though the body gets decomposed, but it still has a place and still can come together. There's actually something called the luz bone. There's a little bone, I think it's somewhere in the back of the neck. I know my mother used to always talk about it. We've talked about it before, yeah. That this is the bone that's going to the body will come back to life through this bone. I'm not sure exactly where. I heard it's over here. I think over here. They say that in Auschwitz, when they would burn the bodies, they would see it was although there was a lot of ashes, they always had this little bones that were there in the piles. Because that bone can never be destroyed. I want to hear your thing because I heard something similar. Oh, you put in the pocket over there. Oh, interesting. Because I've heard behind the ear, the pocket. Oh, okay. So I've heard another thing that when you have Milava Malka, the Suda, the dinner you have after Shabbat, there's a special dinner you should have after Shabbat sometime, and that's on Saturday night, and that strengthens that bone. There's a customary dinner called Milava Malka, which means escorting the bride, escorting the queen, escorting the Shabbos queen. you have this dinner after Shabbos, like say goodbye to Shabbos, and it strengthens this bone. Okay. Anyway, so why, if the soul has it so good, we said it like before the child is born, the soul has it so good up there in heaven, why should it come back down when Mashiach comes and live? So so the answer is kind of what this lesson's all about. The soul has this connection with the body. Okay, it did all these mitzvahs throughout the life cycle. It became holy. The body merited to enjoy the pleasure. And so now when Mashiach comes and we finally live to the ultimate of what we were put on earth for, the soul should enjoy it and should be able to enjoy that times of Mashiach. And the Rebbe says about this verse that we say when to the mourners when their loved one passed away, that we have text 13b, we have perfect confidence in God, that God will rebuild the ruins of Zion and Jerusalem. He will gather the dispersed remnants of Israel from the ends of the earth through our righteous Mashiach, and he will bring them in gladness to witness the joy of Zion and Jerusalem. We are equally confident that the same is true about our personal bereavement. God will fulfill his promise that those that dwell in the dust shall awaken and joyfully sing. Great indeed will be the happiness and rejoicing with them when we all will meet together after the resurrection of the dead. So when we tell somebody who's mourning, you just lost your one, don't worry, you'll be reunited with them soon. You'll be comforted because you really will be comforted. They really will come back when Mashiach comes. It's not just we're saying, oh, you'll feel better, you'll feel better. We really, really mean it. So all these stages in our journey of our soul, and that's through our body, leaves an everlasting holiness, and even after death, that causes us to be merited to be resurrected of the dead when Mashiach comes. And this is just a review what we just said. And 1 second before we end, that's fine.
Jewish names are flexible torus rules. Eight. When the torus is the same to be also in the messianic.
Yeah.
You forgot me.
Yeah, one second.